Welcome back to the WanderLearn Show. This is Francis Tapon. I'm here with Palle Bo, who is the host of the Radio Vagabond podcast. And in this episode, we're going to talk about geopolitics, because we are just months away from the US election, where we got Kamala Harris going against Donald Trump. And we also have tensions to some extent in Taiwan, and of course the ongoing war in Gaza, as well as Ukraine, as well as, by the way, Congo and Sudan. I mean, these are huge conflicts that nobody talks about. I mean, there's more people who die in Congo than anywhere else since World War II. It's horrendous, but nobody ever talks about it. It doesn't make the news.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my point. Yeah. But anyway, so we won't talk too much about it, but I just wanted to make that little footnote. Let's go first, and let's start with the U.S. election, since a lot of people always obviously care about that. You're not a U.S. citizen, obviously. You're a Danish person. Who do you think is going to win?
Oh my God! What day is it today? It's the 28th of July as we're recording this, and things change all the time. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, obviously Donald Trump, and because it was Biden, and now it's Kamala Harris, and my first thought was like, she hasn't impressed me that much. And now she's getting more out there, and she's getting a bit of momentum as we speak right now. So right now it could go either way. I have no idea.
It went from the most boring election in history,
oh my God,
to a more interesting one. Yeah. Just that change, because my God, everybody was just like, why are these two old men running? Like, nobody liked either one of them.
No.
And it's just like, and now it's changed.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, previously we talked about us sitting outside in a backyard and with some bugs, and apparently also a helicopter right over our head.
Which is a really big bug.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to say Kamala Harris. You know why? Because in 2020, I made my predictions for all of 2020s. So I said sometime in the next 10 years, these events will happen. And one of my predictions that were going to happen in the 2020s was that the U.S. was going to elect a woman as president. Mm-hmm. So to fulfill that, and it'd be kind of cool. I mean, I hate this identity politics shit, but she's, part black, part Asian / Indian, whatever. And, I think that's, and a woman, I think that's a good milestone. Symbolic milestones. I don't like to obsess too much about these identities and stuff like that, but I do think it's inspiring for the world. I always thought it was embarrassing that fucking Pakistan had a woman leader, Bhutto, I forgot her first name, who was assassinated later on. She was leading Pakistan, one of the most presumably sexist country around. Yeah. And she was running the show. And Chile has a female leader.
And Rwanda is the country in the world with most women in the parliament.
Yeah, that's right, like 60-something%. Yeah. And here we are, United States, land of the free, where women are empowered. And we haven't had a single female president. And so many other countries that have far more sexism by most measures have had leaders.
And then she's very young.
Well, not very young, but she's...
Oh, come on. She's 59 like me. She's exactly my age.
Okay, good. All right. Young spring chicken. Yes. But yes, it is funny because Trump was making such a big deal about age, and now he's the old guy.
Yeah. If he gets elected, he's going to be the oldest elected president ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, beats Ronald Reagan, I guess. Anyway, so then let's move on to Ukraine. You visited Ukraine.
It was in October 23, so in the middle of a full-scale war.
Right.
And I went there with Nomad Mania, a community of extreme travelers, and obviously I did a lot of research, but I felt like if I'm going with some people, I want to go with these people because they know what they're doing, and they took a lot of precautions, and obviously going to a country in a full-scale war and going all the way to the eastern part of the country. We were in Kharkiv and very close to the front line, and got to hear some missile alarms and stuff like that. But I felt it was important for me because I wanted to show the Ukrainian people that we're still with them. We haven't forgotten them, even though this was just after the attack in Gaza. So everybody was talking about it. That was all over the news, and Ukraine went on the back burner. And I wanted to do some podcasts from there. I wanted to go and see it with my own eyes, because one thing is seeing it on TV and in the news, but experience it firsthand.
How do you think it's going to end?
I don't see this ending because I don't see the Ukrainians giving up. There's going to be last man standing. And I don't see Putin saying, well, that was a mistake, sorry. It's scary. It's scary. And
could it be like Azerbaijan and Armenia? It's just kind of like this frozen conflict of, or Georgia and Russia? I mean, just kind of like
I hope not.
I mean, Georgia and Russia are like, they're kind of like in a stalemate.
Yeah.
You know, Georgia wants that land back.
Yeah. Yeah.
South Ossetia. And they're going to want it back at some point.
Yeah.
And Ukraine is probably just going to twiddle its thumbs for a while. They may never go back for Crimea again, but they probably want the eastern.
Yeah, when they say something Ukraine, they want Crimea back as well. But
I know they do, but I think that will be a lot harder to get than eastern Ukraine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So, but definitely that has been poisoned. So you don't have a prediction for that either, Palle.
I have some hopes, but
hopes don't count.
No.
So what's going to be next with Taiwan, a country that you visited about 20 years ago?
No, about 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah, and
are you going to tell me you don't know about that one either?
I always regarded that as this is a country in itself. So I was quite surprised when I arrived there at the airport, and the sign didn't say "Welcome to Taiwan." It said "Welcome to the Chinese Republic of Taiwan." I think it's what it's called. And I knew that, China doesn't recognize, but I didn't know that it was actually in the name as well.
So how's that going to end?
That's also
how's that going to end? Palle, come on, bring out your crystal ball. It's very foggy.
Why did you think that I would know anything?
Because you're Danish and you're tall.
And bald.
I'm bald too.
Old.
All the bald people, they know everything.
No, I don't think China's going to invade and do anything stupid. Or more or less, I hope not.
Hope is not a strategy.
But that's not a strategy, so I would say I don't think they're going to do it.
Gaza Strip.
Why are you not saying what you think?
Oh, because I don't know anything. I don't want to admit and be a hypocrite. Fine. Well, I did say that I think that Kamala will win. And I think that Ukraine and Russia, I think they're not going to get Crimea back, not in this century. And they're probably not going to get the East back either. They're just going to have to suck it up. I think probably there'll be some sort of compromise where maybe Ukraine will join EU. When there will be a compromise? Probably in the next 10 years.
And you really think that Russia's going to let them be a part of the EU?
I said EU, probably not NATO.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they can stop it from becoming NATO. They couldn't stop Finland from becoming part of NATO. And Sweden, right? So they couldn't stop that.
Yeah.
So how can they stop Ukraine from being part of NATO, except aside from throwing a couple of nuclear bombs over the bow? But yeah, I think that will be part of the kind of peace settlement. They get to join the EU, maybe NATO, that kind of stuff, and in exchange, Russia gets to keep those lands that it took. You know, that's what I envision as kind of a possible solution to the crisis. Anyway, and then Taiwan, I don't think China is going to invade Taiwan. I don't think so. It's a really, really, really hard thing to execute. I mean, if they're going to do it, they have to do it in the next 3 years. They have to do it by 2028.
Why?
Because Chinese demographics is going in the wrong direction. And the United States has this new agreement with Australia and New Zealand to exchange their submarine technology. And so I think that's going to bolster the defenses there. Chinese economy is, I think, going to start to struggle. Their demographics, again, is just working against them. They've had their boom time, but I think the United States has got a more vibrant demographics and a more open system. You know, it's the same thing that happened. You're old enough to remember, Palle, in 1980s, Japan was like the thing that was going to take over the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the Nikkei just passed the 39,000 level that it hit in 1989. They just passed it relatively recently in 2023 or 2024. It took them that long. And so I think China is kind of the same thing. We just kind of drew this hockey stick and thought the hockey stick was going to keep on going forever. But the demographics of China is just going to plateau. And on top of that, the reason they went on this hockey stick explosion in China is that they had open market policies. They had capitalist policies. Now they're going under command and control, which is the retarded policies that Mao Zedong and other kind of command and control economies, they never do well. Soviet Union didn't do well. Anything where the government is sticking its fingers in the economy a lot, in general, never ever work. They might work short term, but long term, it's never going to beat a free market. And so U.S. is more free market. It's not perfect either.
No.
And so as a result, I think Chinese growth is going to slow for a combination of two reasons. One, demographics. Two, a shitty economic system that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Am I full of shit?
No, you're so much smarter than I am. So I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing. No.
Okay, Gaza Strip.
Yeah, Gaza Strip. It's ugly, and I was just about to say on both sides, and they're doing horrible shit on both sides, and
Like most wars.
yeah. And it's such a tiny piece of land. I was just looking at the map. I totally forgot how little the Gaza Strip is, and I don't understand why can't they. Never been there. Never been to Israel. Never been in that area there. The closest I'd been was recently when I was in the Golan Heights.
The one thing I will say that's kind of controversial is that I do think peace will come to the Middle East. I mean, everybody says it will never happen, but I always like to remind people that in 1985, nobody thought that the Soviet Union and the wall in Berlin would ever come down, and that, you know, the Eastern Bloc would stay forever as it is. And everybody, we have a tendency to think that things will last forever. You know, like dictators will be there forever, Putin's never going to die or whatever. Shit changes all the time. North Korea is eventually going to drop. That was one of my 2020 predictions, is that North Korea is going to eventually give up its, in this decade, is going to undergo a revolution, which is of course controversial and unlikely at this point, but hey, you know, strange things happen, and it doesn't happen in much time. Think of it, 1985, you said to somebody the Soviet Union will be over in about 5-6 years, nobody would have believed you.
So what are you
talking
smoking?
about?
Yeah.
You know, Gorbachev was just walking in the door, and like nobody saw that coming.
No.
And so that's how fast things can change. And it's just, the Middle East, people forget that Palestine, Israel, that whole zone there, they coexisted for centuries at peace.
Yeah.
For centuries, they've lived at peace. So this whole thing of just being in a forever war and a forever conflict is relatively new. So I don't see why the Jews and the Arabs can't get along. They did get along for a long time.
Yeah, but both in Lebanon and Syria, when I was there, they really, really, really don't like the Israelis.
I know. I'm just saying that the same is true for a lot of age-old conflicts that, you know, forever. I mean,
whereas
look at the Serbians really don't like the Kosovarians. Okay, it's true. They didn't like the Croatians for a while there. I think they're getting along okay now. I mean, the United States hated the Brits. Look at us now. We're like best buddies. And that didn't take that long for us to become best buddies.
No.
And so...
But it was, you mentioned Korea. It was something that I experienced when I was in North Korea, that they did not say if we get reunited. They say when we get reunited. And the funny thing is, when I came to South Korea, they said the same thing there.
Yeah.
The people that I spoke to, they see themselves as one people that are just, we're going to be one country again.
Great.
I really don't see it how...
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. Just like, you know, people didn't see West Germany and East Germany united. And if you asked anybody in 1984, they would have said, no fucking way. And literally, like 7 years later or something like that, they were united. So just, all I'm saying is sometimes black swan events happen and nobody sees them coming, and the world changes sometimes extraordinarily fast in a short amount of time.
So in your decade prediction, did you have anything called World War III on that?
No, I don't think World War III is going to happen.
No.
But I mean, it might, for sure. I mean, I do think it's highly probable that Homo sapiens will destroy themselves. It's quite possible. I would say it's like 70% chance. It's pretty high. Because with each passing decade, the capacity for a small group of people to make an enormous amount of damage increases. Eventually, as you can have technology to concoct your own viruses using AI to, you know, make a deadly plague increases. It just becomes so much easier. Eventually, you're going to have like nuclear bombs that you can construct on your own. You get an AI to help you make a nuclear bomb on your own or whatever. Just mass destruction. It's just getting easier and easier for people to do. And so I think that's going to be our challenge. We've got to get off this planet to spread our humanity out into the heavens so that if we somehow create a virus that destroys all of humanity, or at least 99% of it, then, and anyway.
Oh, this is gloom.
It's gloom, yeah. But I mean,
if we're still podcasting in 10 years, we're going to revisit this episode. And
I'm not predicting that I think we'll be here in 10 years.
Yeah.
I think we'll.
I mean, if we're still doing podcasting in 10 years.
I think podcasts will exist in 10 years. It might be in 3 dimensions. It might be sent to your brain in a chip. Anyway, so that's a good overview of geopolitics. And again, remind people about the Radio Vagabond podcast. The Radio Vagabond.
Yeah, I don't know how much we learned from this because
we learned that we're humble. We don't know all the answers.
Yeah, exactly. Especially me.
Exactly. That's okay. I make up shit.
Yeah.
And I admit to it. I don't say I'm right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good points of discussion.
Yeah. You've been listening to a simulcast of WanderLearn and the Radio Vagabond. Go check out WanderLearn.com and the RadioVagabond.com and see more.
Until next time, gotta keep moving.
See ya.
And that ends this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we've talked about, go to WanderLearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is always my social media username. My website is ftapon.com. Do you want to leave me an anonymous voicemail where you can make a comment or ask a question? Then go to speakpipe.com/ftapon. Furthermore, if you'd like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. Now, 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at WanderLearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.